Hi, how are you doing? Good to be here together again. And today we are finishing or ending a series that was about look again, trying to find Jesus in the Old Testament. And the title for today is The More I Know Yahweh, the More I Like Jesus. And this is a personal journey. Actually, I was struggling even with the title. I was thinking about God behaving badly, the demonic element in Yahweh or something along those lines. Because the more I know about Yahweh or Jehovah, the way that the Lord is mentioned in the Old Testament, really, honestly, the more I like Jesus. I remember these times, maybe some of you can recognize these books, don't you? 10 volumes. I remember Saturdays afternoons, opening them, many hours going through the pages with my sister, enjoying those moments, beautiful moments. And I love Arthur Maxwell. I call him Uncle Arthur. The way he taught the stories of the Bible was such a pleasure to read those stories. They were all about justice, the good people at the end always won. David and Goliath, this was my favorite volume. Beautiful. But then I grew up and I stopped using them. And I started reading the Bible. And you know, the Bible starts with Genesis, the Old Testament. And I would go through those pages quite excited because I remember Uncle Arthur, but I didn't find the same. Not quite the same. Let me share with you some of the things I found and that really worried me. First, Exodus chapter 4. Just to give you an example. In chapter 4, this is something that is mentioned, and it's mentioned for the next 10 chapters until chapter 14, many times, more than 10 I could count. Here, who hardened his heart? Pharaoh's heart. The Lord said to Moses, when you return to Egypt, see that you perform before Pharaoh all the wonders I have given you the power to do. But I will harden his heart so that he will not let the people go. And every time God was doing a miracle, 10 plagues, something, this is repeated. I will harden his heart. That was not a nice idea about God. If we go now to Exodus chapter 14, 10 chapters after, again, just reminding you that he did it. And I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and I will pursue them. And then all the army of Pharaohs perishes. Now, if you have a Bible at home, bring it next to you, because some of the things I'm going to read to you, you might not believe that they are in the Bible. You will look at the screen and say, is that really in the Bible? And it is. So, bring a Bible, you might want to use it. So what kind of God or Lord hardens some people's hearts? I was looking in the commentaries, and some of them, they say, well, God is like the sun. Some people are like butter and they melt, and some people are like clay and they get harder. That helped me a bit, but not fully. Look at this other one, Saul and David. So here in 1 Samuel, we had a very interesting story. I still remember Arthur Maxwell, Uncle Arthur, the illustration of this particular story. It says, the next day, an evil spirit from God. I'll read it again. This is 1 Samuel 18:10. The next day, an evil spirit from God came forcefully on Saul. He was prophesying in his house while David was playing the lyre, as he usually did. Saul had a spear in his hand, and he hurled it, saying to himself, I will pin David to the wall. So an evil spirit coming from God, then Saul, with that spirit controlling him, tries to kill David, And then the next verse says that Saul was afraid of David because the Lord was with David. So the Lord sends an evil spirit that makes Saul try to kill David, but then David was with the Lord. Not like the stories I used to read when I was a kid. Did God want to kill Moses? This one, the first time I read it, I just went through it, and something in my mind made me go back. This is in Exodus chapter 4, verse 24, and you might want to read this one in your Bible. At a lodging place on the way, they were going to Egypt, the Lord met Moses and was about to kill him. But Zipporah took a flint knife, cut off her son's foreskin, and touched Moses' feet with it. "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me," she said. And then Moses didn't die. So this is a God that comes out at the encounter of Moses and tries to kill him because his son was not circumcised. Did you get that part? God doing what? Another one. These are just examples. This is in Ezekiel chapter 20, and this is really disturbing. So just a warning. "So I gave them other statutes that were not good and laws through which they could not live." This is God talking about Israel. "I defiled them through their gifts, the sacrifice of every firstborn, that I might fill them with horror, so they would know that I am the Lord." So here is God talking, and he's recognizing that he masterminded child sacrifices, so they could recognize that he was the Lord. I don't like this very much, do you? So that's why the more I know Yahweh, the more I like Jesus. What happened in the Old Testament? I'm having a hard time, if you can see, to find Jesus in these passages. Now, we will end with this example, this set of examples, because there are many. This is in 2 Samuel chapter 24. And there are books in the Bible that tell the same story. For example, you have the Gospels. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. They tell the same story in different ways. In the Old Testament, Samuel and Chronicles, they also tell the same story. So let's see this story. "Again, the anger of the Lord burned against Israel, and he incited David against them, saying, 'Go and take a census of Israel and Judah.'" 2 Samuel 24, first verse. Now we look the same story in Chronicles. Same story. You can check this. 1 Chronicles chapter 21. It says, "Satan rose up against Israel and incited David to take a census." So, God, Yahweh, Jehovah, or Satan? Because we have the same story, and in 2 Samuel, it starts saying that the anger of the Lord incited David, but in Chronicles is Satan who rose up against Israel and incited David. So who was it? God or Satan? This is a huge contradiction, don't you think? These are those kind of things that when people read the Bible and they say, "I cannot believe in this," I agree with you. How can you? Contradictions, a God that does things that are not good at all. So, someone please help me. And I wanted to bring this to you honestly, raw and open. Because this is in the Old Testament, and we are trying to find Jesus with all these things. So maybe a solution we can propose is the one that the third president of the United States actually did. Thomas Jefferson just got rid of the Old Testament, and when he took the New Testament, he took it with a pair of scissors, and he started to cut out and get out many pieces. The New Testament has around 184,000 words. The New Testament of Thomas Jefferson, which is in the Smithsonian Museum, has only 25,000 words. That might be a solution. Getting rid of the Old Testament. And I would like you to think about this honestly after what we read. And I hope you have a good day and you can meditate upon these things. Now, what would happen if I finish the sermon now? I don't know if I will be even preaching anymore in this church. I don't know if I can enter this church when the quarantine is over and not get looks like, what is he doing here? I mean, he doesn't believe in the Old Testament. He would be cutting the Bible. Well, this is a personal journey. And if you were talking to me not many years ago, I was struggling a lot with all of these passages. So, there are a couple of approaches we can take. I will propose to face these passages. One of them, we will call it the Pampers approach, or the Pampers model. It's the one, the diapers. Okay, that's one of the approaches. And the other one, we will call it the Falabella approach, which is, Falabella, it's a store that is in many countries, not precisely here in the States. So let's see these two commercials to decide which approach we want to take with all this mess.
No, no!
Okay? So there it is. This is the Pampers approach. No, don't go there. Freud, when he was studying the mind, he found 9 self-mechanisms of defense. Then the defense mechanisms, he just called them 9 of them. First one, denial. It's a very effective mechanism. It works. Just don't go there. Don't talk about it. Just don't read those passages. Focus on the other good ones. There are so many, and it's true. There are so many. We don't need to focus on this. Let's just have faith. And it's an approach we can take. Effective for many, not for everyone. Now, let's talk about the other approach. We will call it the Falabella approach. There it is, the Falabella approach. This is another approach we can take. We just go and face it. We don't know what we are going to find on the other side of that wolf, but we go and face it. It's dangerous. It will bring change probably, but we will go and face it. So I would like to take that approach with you today, if you allow me. I really want this to help you as much as it helped me to find Jesus in all this mess. So Jesus Christ is the same, Hebrews says, yesterday and today and forever. So how could it be that that Jesus that was so gracious, so loving, was like that when he was called Yahweh or Jehovah? Well, when God delivered his people from from Egypt actually, the people of Israel came out of Egypt, and they were so used to a culture that was full of deities, lots of idolatry all the time. So God took 4 measures, and this is very important to understand why these passages are in the Old Testament. So let's go together through these 4 measures. The 4 measures that God took to protect Israel from idolatry were: first, you will only have me as your God. And he says in the first commandment, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. Before me can be translated also, or besides me. Other versions of the Bible go like that. You shall have no other gods besides me. If you pay attention, God doesn't say that there are no other gods. You read the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible, he just says, just follow me, I am your God, don't have others besides me or before me. Another measure that God takes is, he forbids sorcery and witchcraft, but he doesn't say that it's from Satan. If you read Deuteronomy chapter 18, the prohibition appears and never says that it's from Satan. It says, let no one be found among you who sacrifices their son or daughter in the fire, who practices divination or sorcery, interprets omens, engages in witchcraft or casts spells, or who is a medium or a spiritist, or who consults the dead. He just says this is forbidden. This is from the other nations. You don't do this. The third measure, this is very interesting, God takes responsibility for everything in the New Testament. And this means everything, good and bad. Look at this. This is in Isaiah 45. I am the Lord, Yahweh, and there is no other. I form the light and create darkness. I bring prosperity and create disaster. I, the Lord, do all these things. Good or bad, I do everything. I am the Lord. And when we read the story of Job, we found this. Job and his friends, they talk all the time, this is coming from the Lord. There is no one else. He gives good and bad. And Job says, will I not trust him now? Only should I trust him when he's giving me good things? So even if he kills me, I still believe, he says. And number 4, God doesn't reveal much about Satan. But why? This was very interesting for me to find out. Israel was so prone to idolatry that this was very important. You see, in the economy of the divine at that point in history, it was very important to be careful with the bad gods. Let me explain. If you are going out in a dangerous area, would you be more concerned about the good people in that area or the bad ones? Yeah, it's pretty obvious. I would be, looking around for bad people. I need to protect from them. The same with the divine. Bad gods were much more worshipped than good ones, because the good ones wouldn't do anything bad to you. But the bad ones, they could kill you. They could kill your family, exterminate your crops, your animals. So you would make sure that you were in peace with those bad ones. So God, because of this situation, doesn't say much about Satan. Actually, nothing until some point. He didn't say, Because otherwise, you remember Israel, Moses goes up to the mountain to receive the 10 Commandments, and they were already, after a few days, worshiping another God. So if they knew about this other being that was so powerful, what were they going to do? Probably worship Satan. Now, let's go with, just let's keep going together, because some of you are thinking in your mind, some things don't fall together here. Just let's keep going together as a family here, and let me share my journey with this. Concept of present truth. This is something very Adventist. What was present truth at some point was not present truth at another point. This is a good example. Let's go to 1888. The Adventists that are listening this, you will understand. This was a GC conference when we opened to grace and we left the law on the side. It was not the central part of the gospel, the law, but Jesus and His grace. So Ellen G. White says in her manuscript number 8, that which God gives His servant to speak today, 1888, would not perhaps have been present truth 20 years ago, but it is God's message for this time. Present truth. 20 years ago was not present truth, but today it is. It's the truth we need now. Now, you are thinking, okay, you are saying that in the Old Testament, Satan is not mentioned? Nestor, open the Bible again. And probably some of you are thinking about Lucifer. It's very clear. It's right there. So let's go there. Isaiah 14. How you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. And this is a chapter that normally we attribute to Satan or Lucifer. But if you read the chapter, Isaiah 14, you will only find that it talks about the king of Babylon. That's it. No mention to Satan. And only Tertullian, a father of the church, in the year 240 after Christ, he's the first one that mentions this passage in connection with Satan. 240 years after Christ. Ezekiel, chapter 28, Son of man, take up a lament concerning the king of Tyre, and say to him, this is what the sovereign Lord says. You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom, and perfect in beauty. Again, this chapter, Ezekiel 28, we attribute it quickly to Satan, but only the church fathers, after 400s, after Jesus, they were the first ones that said, this talks about Satan. When Ezekiel and Isaiah wrote these things, they were just talking about the king of Babylon and the king of Tyre. So Lucifer, the connection we make it now, and now it is present truth. What about the serpent? Yeah, many of you are saying, but come on, it's so clear. You just open the Bible, Genesis chapter 3. It is said in Genesis chapter 3 that the serpent was created by God. That's all it says about the serpent. It doesn't say much more. We can see that this serpent is against God somehow, but it doesn't say much more. It was created by God. That's what it says. Now, in the Old Testament, the image of the serpent is even ambiguous. You have this story in Numbers chapter 21, that serpents were biting the people of Israel. So what Moses did, he prepared a serpent, put it in a bowl. It was a metallic bronze serpent, and the people who looked at the serpent were healed. So the serpent was against God, but at the same time, if I look at the serpent, I am healed. It was an ambiguous idea. John is the one who makes the serpent case clear, and by revelation, present truth is that the serpent and Satan are the same. Revelation 12, the great dragon was hurled down, that ancient serpent called the devil or Satan, who leads the whole world astray. He was hurled to the earth, and his angels with him. So, by Revelation and John, we have the clear picture, and we understand that the serpent is Satan. This was so surprising to me. I mean, I grew up as a pastor's kid. I read all these books that I showed you at the beginning when I was a kid. I read my Bible, but I had no idea about these things. Now, some of you are still saying, but Nestor, Satan eats in the Old Testament. Well, here we go. It only appears 3 times. That's it. 3 times. First time in Job, of course, chapter 1 and 2, Satan trying to do terrible things to Job. Then in Zechariah chapter 3, Satan is accusing our brothers. When you are accused, when I was preparing this sermon, I was thinking, should I preach this week, especially this week? And immediately, when I was thinking that, I recognized that Satan was accusing me. He's the one that accuses us, not God, never God. And in Zechariah chapter 3, he's the accuser of our brothers. And in 1 Chronicles, we read it actually, if you remember the census of David, he appears inciting David to take the census. That was something bad to do. Now, these are the only 3 times. So now let's go back and let's put all the pieces together. Let's go back to that census that we talked a little while ago. Was it God or was Satan? Here it is again. In 2 Samuel it says, again the anger of the Lord burned against Israel. And many things happened. They got sick, they were lots of bad things if you want to read. In 1 Chronicles 21, Satan rose up against Israel. Now look at the dates. 2 Samuel was written 600 years more or less before Christ. Chronicles was written 300 years before Christ. At the time of Samuel, they didn't know much about Satan. Everything came from God, and they said, the anger of the Lord did this. Chronicles was written 300 years later approx. And when the writer, the inspired writer, was writing again, now he had the present truth, and he didn't put God in that place. He said Satan rose up against Israel. Interesting. So this is the concept of present truth. This is like God taking you by the hand, and you are going to, the ones who are parents know well about this. You are with your kids and you are about to enter a forest. There are snakes, spiders, dangerous creatures. You take your kids by the hand, they are very small, 5 years old, 4, and you say, just walk next to me. Don't go far, just walk next to me, and we will go through this together. You don't say anything about the spiders, the snakes. That wouldn't be good for a little kid. But 20 years later, you go through the same forest, and you tell them, be careful, there are spiders, snakes. What was not present truth in 2 Samuel was present truth by the time of Chronicles. The same happened with the book of Job and Zechariah. If you take a Hebrew Bible, forget about our Christian Bibles, go to a Hebrew Bible, only the Old Testament. They put their books in a chronological order, and you will find that Job, Zechariah, and actually 1 Chronicles is the last one in that Bible. So something that was not present truth at the time they were coming out of Egypt, at the Torah, the first books, it was present truth at the end of the Old Testament. And it's interesting that Job was written very early, we think, but it was canonized with the last books in the Hebrew Bible, the same as Zechariah, this one of the last prophets to be canonized. So what was not present truth at one point, it was present truth later. Now, when we read all of these stories, we put Satan in many places because now it is present truth. So this is all about perspective. It's about having the right perspective. It's about knowing more and having new perspectives. And I'm happy that I go back now to the Old Testament and I find Jesus there with so much love that he was even willing to take responsibility for everything. At the end of the day, he created us and Satan free. He's responsible for his creation. He had the plan of salvation for that. Taking responsibility for everything, even for things that he didn't do. So, let me ask you, what do you see here? What is there? I would love to have you here so you can say, some people have told me a starfish, some others had said a star, others said, how do you call them, like a rooster, you know, this part of the rooster. There it is. It was actually that. But actually this rooster, it's seen through the window because these kids just open it to watch the rooster that was maybe singing. And they are part of this set that this girl is using to play. Now, perspective is bringing new things into the picture. And actually this girl is part of this magazine that is using this boy that seems to be quite bored, though he is in a cruise with lots of fun things to do. Actually, this cruise is part of this advertisement that is just passing by on this bus that actually is being watched by this cowboy that is part of this stamp that just arrived to this island and now the postman is leaving. A matter of perspective. We see so little. And there is so much more to find. Jesus said, this is eternal life, that they may know me. Eternal life is not defined in terms of time. It's defined in terms of relationship. There is so much more to know. There are so many new perspectives that are coming. It's so exciting to be serving this Lord, this God. And there is so much more to find about him. All good things. May that Lord, our Lord, be present in your life. And may you find him when you open the Old Testament and you see Jesus everywhere.